Another movie review coming your way. This is a movie called Palm Springs, and I thought I would dress for the occasion to make me feel like I'm in that kind of environment. Might immerse me into that world. Palm Springs is an indie or film festival type movie that was released last year. But when you do look at the cast and you realize who was behind the production, it doesn't make you feel like you are watching a film festival type film. Lonely Island was behind the production of this film, and of course it does star Andy Samberg as the main character. It also features J.K. Simmons, so already right there you got two big name actors. You also have Cristin Milioti, who plays Sarah. She is the co-actress to Andy Samberg's lead. Then you have people like Peter Gallagher, who was in the OC. You have Camila Mendes for anyone who watches Riverdale. And then you have Tyler Hoechlin, who is currently playing Superman in the new Superman and Lois TV show. So I'm just gonna kick it off and say this movie was fantastic. When you watch this film, you definitely get that Lonely Island type feel. There is that comedy that they've shared together on YouTube, or maybe even other smaller films they worked on like Popstar and Hot Rod. But even though there is that Lonely Island type comedy, it is still a message at the heart of this film. And I think that's why this movie got such great reviews. For user reviews, it is sitting at a 7.4 out of 10, and for Metascore, it is sitting at an 83 out of 100. To even get higher than an 80 on Metascore is super difficult. But let me tell you right now, this movie is absolutely deserving of those ratings. Not only is this movie a comedy, it has a blend of everything: romance, drama, fantasy, sci-fi. The overall story is Andy Samberg, who plays this character, Niles, has been waking up in a time loop for who knows how long. They don't tell us in the film how long he's been doing this. He has been reliving the same day over and over and over again. He is at a wedding with his girlfriend, who's part of a wedding party for her best friend. So he does not have any mutual connections in the sense when it comes to family or close friends. He is literally the boyfriend of a bridesmaid. One night, him and J.K. Simmons, a man named Roy, who he meets at this wedding, end up getting super drunk, super drugged out, and they end up just wandering the deserts. From what I remember, this movie takes place in Nevada. So as they're wandering the mountainy deserts of Nevada, they find this cave, and in this huge cave there's this orange glowy cosmic portal looking thing. When they walk inside of it, they get sucked in, and they have now entered a time loop where no matter what happens and what they do, the minute they die or the minute they close their eyes and go to sleep, they wake up at the beginning of that same day over and over and over again. As you're watching the beginning of this movie, you already get the sense that he has been doing it for so long, possibly days, weeks, months, who knows. So then he finds Kristin's character, Sarah, sitting at the table, who happens to be the sister of the bride. He immediately tries to attract her attention and to basically get her to notice him throughout the course of the night. They start to develop a connection as the night moves along, and when they do, just before they're about to do the deed, Niles gets attacked by Roy, who is dressed up in hunting gear with a crossbow, and he is chasing down Niles, shooting him in the leg, in the shoulder, in the back. So as Niles has escaped Roy, he crawls into that portal to basically restart his whole day. But Sarah sees him doing that because she was worried about him. They were about to have sex, but Niles gets attacked by a man with a bow and arrow. So as she follows him to figure out what's going on, he warns her not to come into the cave, don't go near the portal. She obviously doesn't listen, and she gets sucked in as well, and she now joins Niles and technically Roy on this loophole. This time loop that just keeps them going back and forth through the exact same day. As this movie goes on, both Niles and Sarah realize that there's no point to anything anymore. They can technically do whatever they want, and like I said, the minute they die or the minute they go to sleep, they just restart all over again. Sarah has this very negative feeling on life, this very pessimistic view on life, how not only does nothing matter in this time loop world, but nothing really mattered even on the outside world. There is this connection that Niles and Sarah do share together in this movie, and it's love. You find out details like Niles' girlfriend, who happens to be the bridesmaid, has been cheating on him with another guy who's at that wedding. You find out that Sarah actually slept with her sister's husband the night before the wedding, and I think the whole idea of being stuck in this time loop and reliving the same day over and over again, it's more of a message of morality and characteristics than it actually is about just being stuck in a time loop to make a funny comedy film. You know, they mention so many times in the movie how love is absolutely pointless. It gets you nowhere but misery and loneliness, and you know, you put your trust into certain people and then it can just be ripped away so quickly. And basically living lonely is just the key and the answers to their lives, because why risk being with someone when you know that the disappearance of them as a person and maybe losing the love and the interest that they could carry for you? Why be lonely from someone while you could simply just choose to be lonely yourself? I think there's more to take away from that statement as well, is that not only would you be lonely, but marriage is this whole idea that you make a vow to basically live happily ever after. There's gonna be hardships, you just gotta work through it. And nowadays we see in our society that you can do that. It takes work, but 50% of couples just don't wanna work for that. So that's why so many marriages don't work. And then you have two people like Niles and Sarah who are on two sides of the same coin. You know, you have someone like Niles who has seen what betrayal of love can do to you as a person. That's why he doesn't care to love, and that's why he just lives in this loophole timeline for the rest of eternity, because nothing matters anymore. And then you have someone like Sarah who, on the other side of the coin, actually did the cheating. She actually slept with her sister's fiance and realizes that it's not just about love, it's about doing what's good for you, almost like this selfish mentality. If she feels good in the moment of what she's doing, then that's all that matters. And bringing it back to what I said about just making this loophole into a funny comedy film, yeah, there is so much funny about this film, but I think the more important thing is you have two people who need to realize their mistakes. They need to realize where they've gone wrong, and the loophole that they're living in is more so an analogy. It's more so showing that you can't escape this loophole of feeling the way you feel about life until you truly find what's meant for you, who's meant for you, and until you can fully forgive yourself for the certain mistakes that you have made in your life, and then you are free of this loophole. And I think that's what the movie was so fantastic at, is we as people suffer with some of this stuff all the time. Regrets, guilt, mistakes, overthinking, stresses, and anxieties. And the movie does show you that at the end of the day, it's actually love that can save you. And it's forgiving yourself and accepting who you are that can also save you. And until you can accept that, you will be stuck in that loophole. So skipping through a couple of details here, because when I do movie reviews and movies that I do like, I always suggest you go watch it for yourself so that you do see exactly what I'm talking about and why it's so good. Technically, spoiler warning here though, yes, they do get out of the time loop, of course, and both Sarah and Niles escape together. Sarah is the one who figures out how they can reroute this whole cosmic event to pull them out into the outside world. But basically at the end of the film, they both tell each other that they love each other, and I think more than anything, that is pretty much what gets them out of this loophole, was the power of love. It was the power of belief that there was something out there for them, they just needed to see it. Now the ending is very interesting because it leaves it open to interpretation for everyone out there. What's really interesting about it is in an interview, Andy Samberg actually said there were multiple endings filmed and edited that were actually screened to friends, family, and the production crew, so they could kind of get a sense on which ending they should actually use and what direction they should go in. So just before they escape the loophole, Sarah does tell Roy, J.K. Simmons, the man who was also stuck in the loophole with Andy Samberg's Niles. She does let him know the way to get out of the loophole, the way to save himself so he can go back to his regular life. And it's really interesting to see how the movie ends because you see Niles and Sarah together, they've escaped the loophole, and then there's this mini end credit scene where J.K. Simmons, his character Roy, confronts Andy Samberg, and he basically says like, hey, so you guys found a way out. And when he's talking to Andy Samberg's character literally has no idea who he is. And I think there's this really cool play with creativity that they've actually created two different timelines. There's a timeline where Sarah and Niles escaped the time loop, but then there's the other timeline where Roy is still stuck in it. And the only way he can get to Niles and Sarah timeline is if he escapes himself. But once again, that is the beauty, not of just the film, but the ending, is that it is left up to interpretation for everyone. That's my take on the morality of this entire movie and the message it left for its viewers, but it is funny. It really is. Now, the thing about comedy is I am not about to sit here and explain jokes, because I've made mention of this before. If you need to explain a joke, it's not funny. So that's not what I'm gonna do. Just take my word for it. It's Lonely Island comedy. You can't go wrong with that. The movie was nominated for 2 Golden Globes, one for Best Motion Picture for a comedy, and one for Best Actor with Andy Samberg. It did not win, but I do honestly believe, like, even Andy Samberg should have probably won Best Actor. I don't know who he was going up against, but that's how good this movie is, and surprisingly good. I came into the movie thinking like, oh, it's gonna be a fun ride, but when I left this movie, I was like, wow, I really liked it, and it stuck with me, especially the message of the film. I have been on this Andy Samberg grind lately too. I'm currently watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine for the second time because I've completely forgot the show, and I'm trying to catch up when season 8 comes around. And Andy Samberg is just a comedy genius. He's so good at writing stories and creating movies, and just something so beautiful, and that's what Palm Springs was. It was just a beautiful romantic sci-fi comedy drama. So guys, I am going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. If you have an hour and a half to spare, please check this out on Amazon Prime. That's where it is. I don't know if it is on any other streaming service, but just give it an hour and a half. You won't regret it. I'm sure you will come out enjoying it. All right, and that is it for this movie review. So until next time, I will talk to you guys soon. All right, see ya.